Okay, I will make an attempt, only an attempt, mind you, not to wax too philosophical as we look at what is it that this week and February in general have in store for us. Right off the bat, we'll go look at the chart. So, here's our chart for Monday. And something that it will be in effect all month long. And in actuality, it's the Uranus signature. You can kind of see Uranus is down here at 27 degrees of Taurus. As we go through this week, Uranus is going to station and go direct at 27 degrees. And speaking of that 27 degrees where Uranus is as the end of last year transpired, Uranus entered the 27 degrees of Taurus, and it will stay in 27 degrees of Taurus until early March, early to mid-March. So that particular degree, and I'm bringing it up because all of our planets that are moving through Aquarius here are all going to cross over that 27 degrees of Taurus, that 27 degrees of Aquarius, and square this Uranus down here at 27 degrees of Taurus as we go through this month. And the first is going to be Mercury, which will do that this week. Before I get too carried away with, the things, who is Uranus in the grand scheme of the celestial dance? Uranus has a tendency, or an inclination, if you will, to want to shake things up. And the extent to which that shake-up process is felt by any one of us has everything to do with how overtly inclined one might be to staying in a certain archetypal pose. Uranus comes along as that unpredictable, rattling kind of energy whose main function is to challenge anything that is, too regulated and wanting to stay fixed in a certain position, because Uranus says, I came to wake you up, to remind you that there's a lot more available than your fixed ideas are keeping you from becoming aware of. I'm here to rattle your cage effectively enough so that you might kind of wake up to alternatives that I was going to say or may not, but it's likely may have you aiming yourself in a different direction that is more attuned to what it is that you came in this incarnation on planet Earth to discover. I told you I wasn't going to do too much philosophizing, but it's a way of life. The Sabian symbol for 27 degrees of Taurus And we're going to look at two. We're going to look at the Sabian symbol for that 27 degrees of Taurus and the Sabian symbol for the 27 degrees of Aquarius, because they're going to be in play all month long as that particular aspect takes place. First, now, the 27 degrees of Taurus. A woman, past her change of life, experiences a new love. That was the vision. Now, when this was being written out by Dane Rudger, he wrote man's capacity to rise. Well, how about if we take woman's capacity to rise in consciousness and feelings above biological limitations? You know, part of the key to this particular degree being rattled, if you will, by this Uranian energy over an extended period of time has the whenever this third stage of the 12th sequence is brought to a person's consciousness, the indication is that he or she should freely open his or her mind to the possibility of always new re-beginnings. Got that? Re-beginnings. Ideally, the new beginning should imply a more mature response to the new possibility of experience. Okay, that's the rattle that you kind of hear in the background. I don't have a rattle handy close to me, or I'd rattle it for you in this moment. Now, looking at that 27th degree of Aquarius, which is going to get tickled by Mercury and Venus, the Sun, and Mars as we go through this month, all squaring Uranus, sitting down there at 27 degrees of Taurus. Who is our Mercury? Because Mercury is the first one that's going to, do this dance. Well, here's a consideration. Mercury is our mind, how we think, how we, organize our thoughts and stuff. Sitting in Aquarius, the realm of the humanitarian inventor. I want you to remember the inventor aspect. Freedom fighter, reformer, scientist, and sage, as well as genius. That mercurial link coming into square with Uranus from the Aquarian perspective at that 27 degrees. We might as well just bump ourselves ahead a couple of days, because this is, here we are. We've made it. That was a fast week. We already made it to Thursday. Well, on Thursday, there it is, Mercury, 27 degrees of Aquarius, in square to that Uranus at 27 Taurus. The Sabian symbol for 27 degrees of Aquarius, and this is going to be something to not keep so far from your consciousness as we go through the whole rest of this month. It gets tickled, as I indicated. Sabian symbol reads, a tree felled and sawed to ensure a supply of wood for the winter. Well, we're in winter here in the northern climes right now. And particularly over there on the eastern side of the United States, winter's putting in an appearance in no small fashion. Keynote, knowledge and skill used in its natural surroundings for the satisfaction of vital basic needs. This symbol combines, as it were, the implications represented in the two preceding ones. I'll just read off the two preceding ones. A garage man testing a car's battery with a hydrometer. And the next one is an ancient pottery bowl filled with fresh violets. This degree where Mercury is and where the other planets are going to tickle relates to natural living, the human capacity to prepare for the future and to use both physical strength and mental ingenuity in meeting the hardships inherent in an existence close to nature. Strength, efficiency, and intelligence are needed, but they are incorporated in a life in which every act can be part of a harmonic and beautiful ritual permeated with deep significance. Hold on to that thought. It's going to get tickled several times. This particular degree refers to the efficient use of natural resources for ensuring man's well-being. Such a use is based on intelligent foresight. Can you sense in that our mental capacities, Mercury, in Aquarius, the realm of invention, tapping us on the shoulder at this time, at that square to Uranus, which has a certain affinity with the sign of Aquarius. Oh, by the way, if I just go back one day, 2 days, you will notice that Uranus, which has been retrograde ever since September of last year, moves into Wednesday and goes direct. It's no longer retrograde. That is one of the clues for how we are being invited to embrace a more energetic version of the Uranian disruption that is trying to get our attention in the realm of Taurus. How tuned in, from a Taurian perspective, am I to what is of worth? Taurus is the sign of value. It's also the first earth sign, which puts us in direct connection with the earth, Mother Earth, Gaia, Sophia. Are you feeling that? Are you tuned into your place in the natural unfoldment of this living process? Uranus, if you aren't, is going to rattle your cage perhaps a little more diligently than for those of us who do recognize the place within the natural scheme of things that we fit into. So, here we are on Thursday, and Mercury, how we think about things. With our inventive Aquarian mind, which, Uranus says, boy, yeah, give me more. I like invention. I like things to actually change from what it was that was going along, and the invention is the opportunity for something new to put in an appearance. Are you going to be comfortable with it? Well, that's going to be depending on your perspective. If you are really comfortable with the old way that things used to be, and all of a sudden something new comes along and says, you need to change your direction. Something new has showed up that will be very beneficial to you. Oh, but I'm so comfortable with how things are for me now. Depending on your comfort in the past, the Uranus is going to shake you more if you aren't willing to change. And a square aspect is a challenge that's being presented to all of us right now, to not get so hung up on past versions of what it is that has transpired, and be willing to, at first take a timid step into something new. Those of us that are really awake might not be quite as timid in the invitation to participate in something new and dynamic that is trying to get our attention right now. Our mental Aquarian inventive thoughts here with our mercurial connection desire, if you will, the invention of something new to put in an appearance. It's going to be a challenge. It's a square aspect to Uranus, which is saying, don't stay too comfortable. I'm going to change things. And, where are we? On the 5th day. Mercury, being as flitty as it often is moving at a fast rate. Let's take a look and see how fast is Mercury moving. Mercury here is moving a degree, 1 3/4 of a degree a day. So it is ripping along. And because it's ripping along, if I just go ahead one day to the 6th, you'll see that it's sitting there 1/2 degree away from entering Pisces. So on the 6th, it's going into Pisces. Now, Mercury, very happy to be in the Aquarian dance. There's creativity there. There's opportunity for new things to think about. There's that inventive thing. Going into Pisces, it's like they say that Mercury in Pisces is in its detriment and in its fall. And that is because it rules Virgo across from Pisces. I think maybe the most effective way to grasp what it is that Mercury, when it goes into Pisces, might bring up as far as our effective mental and communication styles go, is that like stepping across the borderline from we'll call it the hectic human world of city life into or through the gates of the Magic Kingdom, Disneyland. Can you feel the dynamics of that kind of energy change? Mercury, when it steps into Pisces, a realm where visionary potential, is in fluctuation. The process of being invited into a realm of unlimited creative imaginary space, Pisces, that is there to be a doorway, passage, going over a threshold, if you were, into the realm of spirit. This is the last sign of the natural zodiac. Everything that the rest of the zodiac has been about comes to focus in Pisces as a melting pot of a process where we weigh and balance. What is it that got us to this point that right now we need to consider what is and what isn't worth inclusion, and what do we need to jettison as something that actually might get in the way of the larger spiritual perspective of why we are here. This is the realm of Pisces, the land where spirit is always like this flowing cloud of energies that's asking us to, consider, if you will, the water realm as a level of connection to everything. This is basic water. And from an oceanic perspective, it asks us, do you have the willingness, excuse me, to swim into the deep end of the pool and allow a oceanic water consciousness to recognize your part, our part, in the wholeness of the experience of life. Here, I thought, I'm not going to go into the philosophical side of life. Yeah, I am. It's just who I am. Mercury is being invited as we move into this watery realm to consider things that we haven't considered before. Pisces is the end of a cycle, and in it, each of us must make the determination as to what is it that the previous cyclic experience of going through all the 11 other signs has brought to focus in this moment. Something within me that wants to wake up new. And Pisces is that realm where the creation of the seed for the new experience is being developed to plant across that next critical point when Pisces becomes Aries and the new seed is planted into the new earth, and something is being invited to develop from that. Remember, we're still holding that square between Uranus and that 27 degrees of Aquarius all month long. On the 8th, Sunday, the end of the week, notice the moon over here at 10 degrees of Scorpio moves 12 degrees a day, so it's going to go to 22 degrees of Scorpio during this Sunday, which means that it will square the sun. This is the last quarter moon. And you may actually recognize the potential to tune into a version of the lunar solar dance that the last or waning quarter of the moon represents as a crisis in consciousness. Can you feel some kind of a mercurial factor in that bit? Consciousness? Mercury wants to, play there. Mercury right now is in the deep, wet realms of Pisces. So this crisis in consciousness coming from Scorpio, a most deep and profound sign that has to deal with the mysteries of life, secrets, as it forms this square to the sun over there in Aquarius. Are there factors afoot within the realm of the collective Aquarius that this last quarter moon might be querying at a very deep and profound level, saying, when you came together as a collective, have you discovered aspects of that interchange of energy you share with one another that operate in such fashion that they open up windows into secrets that you recognize within each other as opportunities to grow? Can you feel the crisis in consciousness in that? Are there potential mysterious factors that surface within the collective as you come to know one another on a more interpersonal level? That is also Scorpio, interpersonal. That awaken opportunities that could awaken in no other fashion. Just for giggles, I'll look at the Sabian symbol for this particular last quarter moon. Obeying, it reads like this. This is the moon now at 20 degrees of Scorpio. Obeying his conscience, a soldier resists orders. Oh, I don't know if you could sense the potential for something like that to surface at this particular time with what is happening with those characters who find themselves in versions of militaristic orders to actually create tension within their fellow citizens. The keynote, a readiness to face the results of a refusal to follow the authoritarian patterns of an aggressive society. So this last quarter moon that we come to on Sunday has the opportunity to, I'm going to say, potentially awaken the Aquarian rebellious side. Also a Uranian signature. The sun on that particular day, Sabian Sybil reads, a disappointed and disillusioned woman courageously faces a seemingly empty life. That's not very inspirational, but in the inimitable style of Dane Rudger, there's a lot more to it than might at the surface seem apparent. The keynote, the capacity to meet emotionally upsetting experiences in human relationships with strength of character and personal integrity. This urges us to develop resiliency under adversity. This is a square, that last quarter moon, between the realm of interpersonal activity, Scorpio, and Aquarius collective, community processes that are at work. You can kind of feel that potential crisis in consciousness that is very much afoot currently here in the United States. That's all the astrology that I've got for our considerations for this week. This is a painting from years ago I did, just out of inspiration. Maybe it was during one of those Aquarian moments during the winter, which often is when I got the inspirations to sit down with my paint and brushes and come up with something, because I can see definitely the community process of the gathering here, where there's a sweat lodge in the process of being, tuned into. The community is passing the sacred pipe around. The fire is heating up the stones to be used in the heating of the sweat lodge. The animals, the bear in the distance, the raven sitting on the branch watching, the wolf tucked away in his cage. All of life is tuned into the sacredness of this moment. I think we really need far more sacred moments as we embrace each other and ourselves and all of life, as we engage in the day-to-day activities that are asking us to become more than we thought we were. That's all I got for this week. Journey well, my friends. We have things to do. Ciao.